Joining the conference after the break. I hope you've enjoyed your lunch break, wherever it was. It doesn't matter if you were lunching at the library here, or maybe at your cozy homes, but we're glad to be joined here in this international community and the team of people who really want to make the Polish education system better, more efficient, and with better resources, but also with better outcomes when it comes to the scientific research. So that's the agenda. And obviously we have some panels coming up. And just to tell you about the second panel of today, it's going to be moderated by a person whom you know already, the chairman of the team that was working on the new constitution for science. And when I was talking to Professor Loritz Holm-Nielsen, he told me what's going to be so special about this debate. And he mentioned the fact that this will not be among universities that have been in the top 10 of this Excellence Initiative program, but actually by the universities that were runners-up. And so we want to make sure that also the 10 of 20 universities is following up and that they are just as good. And how can the 2% increase in their budget change the situation? So our moderator, Professor Loritz Holm-Nielsen, the chairman of the IDUB experts team, president of the Denmark's Foundation for Nature. He's a professor of botany and plant geography. So it's great to have you, Professor, and please be so kind and take this seat. And may we welcome him with great applause again. Thank you, Professor. And his panelists, and your panelists, in fact, will be Professor Michał Daszykowski, the Vice Rector from the University of Silesia in Katowice. Great to have you. And so this is your seat. I'll just make sure that it works correctly. Okay. And then from the Wrocław University of Environmental and Life Sciences, Professor Jarosław Bosse, the rector of the university. Great to have you. Hi. And so, yes, this is your seat. And then the third of our panelists, Professor Arkadiusz Wójs from the Wrocław University of Science and Technology, also director of Politechnika Wrocławska. Thank you for joining us. And from the Poznań University of Medical Sciences, the Vice Rector, Professor Michał Nowicki. Let's welcome him. And from the University of Łódź, we are hoping to be joined by Professor Michał Bijak. Thank you very much. And so I'm just leaving the floor, or passing it to Professor Loritz Holm-Nielsen, the chairman of the team that really led the change.
I think it's a little bit too much to say that we are leading the change. We are not, but I think we are your peers coming in and trying to set up the mirror so you can look at yourself through our experiences from whatever country we are coming. But I'm very happy to chair this group and to lead the discussion. I hope we will have a very good discussion among us, and then afterwards with some of our colleagues from the audience and from the virtual audience as well. I don't think we should use too much time on, let's say, what was already said. What I would like us to try to focus on is what, in fact, basically what can be done in terms of change processes within the framework of resources that each of all 20 universities had prior to EDUB. The way I look at EDUB is that it's kind of the incentive to use the total envelope of resources, human, physical, and economic resources of each university in the best way for each university. It needs not be one should be a copy of the other one, but all universities do have a basic resource envelope. And then on top of that, here in Poland, you got a new governance, a new law, which allow you to change or to look into your own governance systems, whether they are the optimal as you would like them, or whether you would take the opportunity to make changes. Governance meaning not only managerial, but maybe also structural inside of the universities. And then because of the effort of the country also wants to put more resources. And I think we heard from the minister this morning that the focus on higher education as a key for Poland's further development, social and economic development, is not only what has been done so far. We are in a process that is leading into the future. So my question to you is actually whether you in a few words could describe how this excellence program, which I consider more like an incentive program, has influenced your own university. And maybe you could comment a little bit on the process, how you have engaged in the process prior to the competition and now in the last 6 months after the new situation. I understand that you, to some extent, must be a little bit disappointed because you didn't get the potential of 10% increase at this moment, but you got some extra new resources at the 2% level, and a commitment, a political commitment, I feel, from the government to your endeavor towards becoming an international level research university. So could you, each of you in a few words, try to describe how your university has been dealing with the process up to the competition and now the last 6 months after? And then we can continue with other questions. And maybe we should start at the other end of the table. So we started with you from the Poznan University of Medical Sciences.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and dear professors, dear colleagues. Exactly, we are not in the first top of top 10 universities in Poland. However, this 2%, this is in case of our university, this is more or less 3.5 million Polish zloty. This is an extra funds. And the the most important element which was related to this fact, it was the possibility to activate young researchers. Because when we have just young people who want to make PhD in our schools, in our university, they have enough power because they want to have a PhD degree. But after, when they want, for example, to go to habilitation process or to be professor, we not have so much funds outside the university which may activate them. And this year we just take 1 million from this 2% and just have chosen 6 the most talented young researchers in our university. Each of them was given 160,000 Polish zloty. They can spend this money for whatever they want to spend. They can go abroad, they can make pilot study, maybe they want to teach or learn something, but we expect one thing. Within a year and a half, we want them to prepare an application in ERC starting grant. And even we don't want them to be the beneficiaries of ERC, but we want them to pass the first selection and get to another selection. If they fail, they have exactly a good application in our NCN, National Center of Science programs, which can be used. So in my opinion, the money and the funds we were given, this is first of all to activate, to make more active young researchers.
Could I ask you an additional question? Is there any of the activities you proposed in your proposal that you have had to say we do not have the resources for this at this point in time, so we cancel the idea?
Yeah, of course. In our application, as we were talking during the interview, and it was 1 hour, it was very fruitful for us, for all of our group. We were talking to experts, and 90% of all the money we wanted to applicate, it was just just for science and also for infrastructure. And this research infrastructure, it was not possible at this moment, for example, to buy from this money, which were not 10% by 2%. Yeah. But some of the equipment which was right now related to COVID pandemic, it was also bought because we know this is maybe not the first and the last moment when we are able to gather such a good clinical material.
Thank you very much. Maybe we should then move to Michael Bijak from University of Łódź.
Okay. Thank you, Professor. Dear professors, dear colleagues. The key element of strategy of University of Łódź to use the 2%, which is around 2.6 million of Polish zloty of the Excellence Initiative, is focused on increasing awareness of research team that they have strong scientific potential, and they are able to applicate for the international grants like ERC, Horizon, and other European Commission grants. They are able to publish in the top 10% of journals. I think that the first 6 months of this year demonstrated this potential because, for example, in the first 6 months of this year, our researchers of the University of Łódź published around 100 publications in the top 10% journals, which in comparison to 2018 and 2017, there was 48 in total, in these 2 years in total, publication in top 10%. So we see how this is increasing. And the main, something like help which university give these people is a lot of funds which will be dedicated for the grants related to PRA, priority research areas. We want to give around 1 million of Polish zloty for the grants for for the priorities, for our priorities, which helps our research team to increase their potential, their scientific potential, and to publish the publication. Some of the funds are using to native speaker corrections of publication, which also increase the level of our publications. Also, our authorities pay the open access in some journals from the 100% of 100 points from the our Ministry of Science lists. So this is also next our point which we help the scientists to increase their capacity. Next our strategy is focused to increase the possibility of application of the grants, as I said previously. We increasing our science center, which is something like administrative support when we created the grants. This is a central unit which is in the our main building, but everybody from each faculty are able to get the support to creation a Horizons proposal or other European grants. We also want to invite some guests from for example, from the European Commissions and show the people from the university, the academic society, that there is a lot of funds, European funds, which are not only in the Horizons. For example, framework grants from the European Commission, for example, other programs from the Directorate Generals, because the Horizon is program only of one directorate generate, but we have a lot other, like ESFP, like many from the DG ECHO, DG Health, and other programs. So we also want to increase the knowledge by some invitation of the guests from the European Commission, and we want to prepare some workshops for the people. Additionally, some funds are dedicated for increasing the visibility and the position of the University of Lodz in the international society. Because not always we should be a creator of the proposals, but sometimes we should be invited by the other consortia, yes, because it is also very valuable for us. As an example, in the last Horizon call, which deadline was in 27th of August. It was call for DRS-04 for the security panel. We got invitation from 4 consortia to be partner of 4 consortia. Of course, we selected only one, but we got invitation from 4 different consortia, which demonstrated that we are visible on the world, and we are valuable partner also for the international institutions. Okay, thank you.
I have an additional question. Before I asked which activities from your proposal you didn't do, now I'll ask you, was there any of the activities you had proposed that you now are doing inside of the budget you already had?
Yes, mainly related with the increasing capacity of our science center, because the grants, I think, will be the grants for our teams will be published within around 2 or 3 months, because the COVID postponed everything. Similar is with the invitation of the external guests, but we are organizing now one video workshop with the representative of the European Commission from the DG Home and DG DevCo.
Actually, I have another follow-on question. We will come back to all of you, but you say you invite people from the Commission to come and tell about their programs.
Yes.
How do you organize within the university yourself? Do you rely on individual academics to prepare their own proposals, or do you support them, or how do you?
Yes, it is coordinated also by our science center, but the information will be sent through the councils of the different faculties with the different subjects, and we want to get some topics and some questions from interesting people and send about 1 week before the workshop to the European Commission guests.
Okay, we might return to that, because I think maybe all of the 20 universities share the same challenge of how to communicate with the EU Commission and how to best be aware of the opportunities, because you're right, it's not only within Horizon 2020 or the ESC, so many other programs that could be of interest for universities or individual groups within the universities. So how do you do it, and how do you maximize the opportunities? I think this is something that, in fact, you could all share, because you are not in competition with the other Polish universities. Yeah. You are in competition with all universities in Europe for these resources. So now I think I will move to Wrocław University of Science and Technology, Arkadiusz.
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 or Arek.
Please.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So I understand we will talk about how we view the program itself, and now I will tell you how it affects us. We have underperformed embarrassingly in this competition as the university. That's the general feeling at my university. So I cannot speak too much about, I wouldn't want to speak too much about what exactly happened and how exactly we have been using this 2% so far. But the situation is like this, that regardless of whether we succeeded or failed, I would want to build Wrocław Tech. I wanted to build a technical university in Wrocław that this city and this region and this country deserves. If we won, I would have at my disposal the prestige and the money. And because we failed, what I have as an asset is the blow to our pride, which energized the whole university. And it's a shock that I don't think ever happened to us as a community of academic community. And I have time, because I intentionally asked previously, the previous rectors were sitting here, if they want to revise grand things like organizational structures. They don't really have time for that because they already got the money to carry on. We are excused to make big changes because we were demonstrated that our program was a failure. So I have a little bit of time, and fortunately, because those 20 universities are treated and treat each other as a group, we share information. So we talk a lot, and I appreciate this from colleagues, rectors, that some experience that they have, we can use. So we have a number of things that I would do one way or another, but again, having these things at our disposal, I can free money or other resources otherwise. For example, I'm excused as a new rector to make big changes that will free some resources that otherwise would be difficult to free by resistance, by inertia. So we will change the organization of the university rather dramatically. I have full acceptance for this from the university. This was explicitly expressed in the election programs and how the votes were cast. And here it was asked before that there is this difficulty, this puzzle that was created by this new law in Poland, that on one, but it's not all wrong, but it is still a puzzle that university has mission and has to build quality in disciplines and is evaluated in disciplines, and disciplines are fluid, are mixed, maybe of different size, can appear, can be incubated and so on. But it is governed by faculties generally, which are stable units, usually attached to certain buildings, have history, have logos, have traditions and so on, have money, have administration staff. So this has to be somehow matched. Without going into details, we will change this dramatically to something that's very simple and very clear, very transparent. Where is the responsibility and how the money flows? I will skip education, but we will, of course, like every university, improve education. Then one of the things that this contest, this program demonstrated when we study applications of successful universities, is that universities have social responsibility, and we have to project by selecting our missions, our objectives, our priority areas. We have to undertake certain social responsibility, so we have to achieve not in what we are good at the moment, but what the society expects from our universities. So, for example, a modern technical university is responsible for achieving, performing, and studying in things like climate and environment, medicine, how it bridges with technology, artificial intelligence, future cities, and so on. I have more. And not necessarily in things like physics or mathematics or chemistry. So this contest showed that we have to reevaluate, and we are doing this right now, what is the mission of our technical university for the society and for our students and so on. Now, this creates a matrix because we are as a university organized into disciplines, but every mission of the university is interdisciplinary very much. So actually, there is an incentive in Poland for the universities to grow bigger and to merge with other universities, because naturally some of those missions exceed even what we represent at our university, however big it is. We will build Wrocław Tech, maybe not alone. Let's see what my neighboring rector will say. We, as a technical university, which sits in a city that is a very high-tech city. We have employers, it's like a Silicon Valley in Polish numbers. The companies that expect from us graduates in computer science, in electricity, in electronics, that demand high-quality graduates, at the same time create pressure to sack our teachers because they offer them good jobs. This is in every good economy. It's the same problem. Okay, so what we can offer them, and what again to achieve greatness and to be in top 10, we have to offer our researchers something else than only money. So things like freedom, like certain agents appreciation for talent and for achievements, certain convenience, comfort of work, and so on. We have to achieve that, we have to make a generation change, and we have to incorporate women, even though it's a technical university. This is being done right now in Wrocław in a very dramatic fashion. We also, even though we don't have this 10% which can be used to attract researchers from other cities, and even though it is difficult to attract people that use equipment, like people that do engineering, I would like to invite all Polish universities that if we need mobility, to use psychology to exploit people for their own benefit, that we should start with mobility inside Poland, because then language is not a problem, and it's kind of a zero-loss game in terms of... so even though we are sort of at a worse position that university that even declared to use this 10% to seek people from other universities, we would very much wish to join and to invite to this, to exchange people, so that we exert pressure on people that go to a new place, kind of internal postdocing. Now in research, we will, like every decent university, we have to promote everything that's new, young, or excellent. So either something is very good now, or it's sufficiently young that it will have time to become good, or something that is new, and who knows, maybe it will become good because it's interdisciplinary or just new borders. We have already planned, this is last sentence almost, mechanisms to bring this about, to make it rise, but I will tell, but these are standard mechanisms known from business. And that's maybe it for now. So this is what this competition gave me, this situation, and this is my dreams using effects of this program.
It's a tremendous task you have in front of you. And so I hadn't prepared this question, but my thought was, who do you share this task with? Because if you were head of leading this task, I guess it would be, you need support. And the way I'm thinking is, do you have support from your board? Do you have a committee of leaders, deans and others? How do you organize it? Because it seems like, I know your university quite well, and so it seems like you are embarking on a deep change, which I guess is fantastic, because you have such a lot of opportunities. So you need a team. You need support from these new governance opportunities that you have within the Polish law. So how do you do it?
So there are two elements to this. One is, of course, the government of the university, and here I appreciate advice or consultations with one other technical university from the sea. That it's not enough just vice rectors, it's too small a group. So we will be building this 20 people staff of governance, which includes 13 deans and rector and vice rectors. These are carefully selected, relatively young people with high ambitions, and they know who I am, and that they will not last if they don't keep step. So it looks optimistic. It was said earlier today that there is a long way from planning to realizing.
Yes.
I've been successful so far. I have plenty of optimism. I hope it will work until the next competition. Another thing that I learned when I was running for the rector, and this was a huge discovery for me, is that already now these days, a university like mine employs a lot of people who are relatively young, have absolutely no complex, no inferiority complex, have been abroad, have their own contacts, have their own achievements, and they're at the university for a purpose because they have alternative careers. If somebody is an engineer or a computer scientist, they have other jobs, opportunities. So if they remain at the university, they demand from the university to be great. They don't want security, they want achievement and admiration for their individual achievement. So this is my power. And let me stop here.
Thank you very much. And let's move on to you.
Okay. As you know, I represent the Wrocław University of Environmental and Life Science. It's only one life science university in this group. So we are the small, more specific, thematically oriented. So we know much more about our position in this group. So, but I have two remarks from the previous times. First, that we received the information and we have the 12th position. The first message that I received was, okay, you have the 2%, but we will find the rest, so don't worry. So it was the positive answers that we are on the good way in the strategy. Second, it was the question that I remember very well. But I come with my team, you asked me, where is the rector? But I was the vice rector now in this time, so I decided to go to be the rector, really, but the program of campaign was the research university. So now I'm a rector. The answer is very easy. Okay, it's my strategy as strategy university. And now about some experience, but we are raised the strategy from few years, not from the last 6 months. So the first of all, but we are small, so the changes are possible to do dynamically than in the classical universities. So I decided to establish the first, to change the university bodies on the level of administration, but we have the new bodies, I mean about the Scientific Disciplines Council, but they are for the monitoring, to create and the strategy of disciplines, so they are supporting also in the monitoring of the researchers. Second part is the regulation for the salary. It is important part also, but we must have the transparent and clear system in this area. Now next is the merging of the administration of central administration units. But it's important to be more effective in the support of the researchers and people from the education. I have the experience from the research, so I know that if I have the high-level officers in the central, I have the better bridge with the researchers. But structural reforms, we decide to develop the disciplines in our university by the leading research groups. So one of the criteria for the leaders was to have the experience in the international cooperation. I mean about the postdocs experience from 2-4 years. So on the base, but they are younger, they don't have, they are independent, but have the experience. So on the base of those group I decided to create the 16 leading research group. They represent all of the disciplines that we have in the university, but also the chance to do the research more interdisciplinary. And now in this time, we are under construction of the leading didactic groups that will be closed, that will be representation of the faculties. So, but we have the two independent, can I say, structures. The faculties are dedicated only for the education, but deans are responsible only for the education, and the research is organized by the disciplines. They are oriented on the level of the university, not on the faculties. So it was necessary to find the balance between the faculties and the leading research groups. So I think that from the development, from the point of the development of the research and education, we have two parts. They are the leaders from the leading research group and leader of the didactic groups. What with the leading research groups? And we have the programs that are dedicated, but all the money that we have, internal, external, and 2%, we use are oriented only for the people. Not for the infrastructure, not for the organization, but only for the people. So we decided to create the program. It was 2 years ago. Now we have the programs, individual programs, like internal grants for the master students, for the PhD students, for the young researchers, and this year we started for the seniors too, to offer the internal. Why? But in this way, we see after 1 year that we have a more application for the external funds. So in last year, we received 8 H2020 projects. So only from the leading research group. I don't mean about the national project, but for me is the start as a success that really we are on the international market in the area where are specific subject that we are working. For me, the next part is very important, is a PhD school. It must be interdisciplinary and international. So we decide that our school have the funds only from the external sources. So we don't use any money from the university. I don't mean about the scholarship, but it's from the ministry, but the rest, the money they have for the PhD school is from the external funds. And we grant for each PhD student voucher for the doctorate for 2 years. It's 20,000 Polish zloty in the beginning, without any, this is not the call, but they have to grant it from the university. But I think that in the situation that we have now with the COVID, we have also the chance to develop the education. So I decided to create the leading didactic groups. So they started in this year. On the basis of the vice deans from the faculties, they are responsible only for the education. So I think that online education, finally, each faculty will have the dedicated online platform for the teaching, and will be oriented also to find the funds, external funds from the external sources, but we know that is important. And finally, it is we must do the change in the financial mechanism for the faculties. But now the money are going. Really, the faculties don't have the strategy for the education, but it will be the way. They will have the leading didactic groups, but also the chance to change the didactic and to be in the same level that you have now in the research. So, but from the rector point of view, it's a strategy, official strategy of the university. I think that not only for the research, but for the education and the administration and the rest. Okay. That's all from my side.
Thank you very much. I remember that your university was one of the universities that had already started a big change process before the competition. And now, when you got the result of the competition, did you change any of your strategies from before? Was some of that left out for the moment? And did you take on some other strategies? You are from Warsaw as well, so did you look into opportunities of maybe more collaboration with some of your colleagues than before, or how?
From 2 weeks we are under discussion about them very well. So yeah, Right, but as you know, we have the status of the national knowledge point in the biotechnology. So a few years ago, we started with the joint PhD school. Yeah. The same, we started with the same school with the medical university last time, and now we are discussing about the joint program, and we told about it. So maybe we like to go in this way, that we have the same area, our chance for the disciplinary cooperation, we will do them. So, but it is important for us. But we know the place in the process. So we have the two big universities and our places.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now I think we should go to Silesia and listen to what happens in Katowice.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank for inviting us as the University of Silesia to this panel. We feel quite honored. You mentioned that we might feel disappointed. I think that most of us are feeling appointed to this task. So actually the general idea of the University of Silesia was to start changes very early. We have introduced our new constitution of the university on the 28th of May 2019. So actually when we were speaking together during the panel, we were already after initiating the process of changes. And perhaps at this moment I should also mention that those changes were, well, in my opinion, very deep at our university, because we have decided to change completely the structure. So we have limited the number of the faculties from 12 to 8 only, but we also decided to make independent institutes that were constituted on the disciplines. So we have really discipline structure. Of course, we are allowing people to interchange between those disciplines. This is possible also because of the Polish law of the Ministry of Higher Education. But the second very important part was that we don't have really internal structure. So the institute is the last structure it exists. Then you have research groups. And those research groups can be constituted themselves. So there is no really strict rules how those research groups are formed. But of course we are expecting some kind of an output from those research groups. So the basic idea was to open the university in every place. So we opened the research groups, we opened the collaboration between the different disciplines, and now we are at the stage of really opening wide, very large infrastructure. So it will be open to everyone. Of course, it's not easy. There are a lot of discussions about it, but actually on this May 2019, we had it done. So we have entered this excellence initiative already with a new structure. So this research initiative is a kind of oil, as you said, for our 50 years old machine. So it's not very old one. So we are trying to put this lubricant around, as everyone here. So we are trying to make everyone happy. So we are trying to make those people to feel free and to take their own path. So this is very important, that they can feel really welcome. And also, I think that our universities don't have the same starting point. So if you compare salaries of different universities, if you compare the amount of money, it's so different, and the specialties are so different that we really have very different starting points. So it's very difficult to compare to each other. It's almost impossible. And this is what I wanted to tell, that we don't feel disappointed, because it's difficult to say that you can be disappointed. Anyway, we won, but we feel a very large obligation to use this money very wisely. It is a bit more than 6 million Polish zloty. Maybe in the total budget of our university is not that much, because our budget is about 340 millions. In total, plus projects and so on, so it's around 450. And also, these are only a part of money we are using, of course. We have also money from different projects, like Power, first and the second edition. So this money are helping us actually to make this change happen. Yeah. And we did not really give up on any point we proposed in the proposal, because anyway we were It is written in our constitution of the university. We have a strategy that is perfectly aligned with the Excellence Initiative proposal. So this is how it happened in the University
I think we
of
should
Silesia.
actually congratulate all 5 of you, because you have taken up the challenge of what was put in front of you from the government, that they want the 20 universities to develop as strong research universities. And because of introducing the competitive mode, you were in this competition with the other universities, and some got more resources than others. But all of you are winners because your country wants you to develop into research universities, and you are doing it, each of you in your way. So I hear many positive sounds from you. So I would really want to congratulate you with that. But I also feel that there's still many things that can be done, and not only to prepare for the next competition within Poland, but also for the external competitions, and several of you commented on that. So on behalf of you, I'm very optimistic, but I can also see new opportunities coming up. So let's engage in a good discussion. You wanted?
Yeah, I just wanted to say something about those 2 or 10%, which I don't know who is listening. All of us sitting here probably know it very well, so let me just state the obvious, that typical university has a great wealth in terms of buildings and equipment, and on this scale, this 2% is little. Typical university has a big budget. Compared to this 2%, it has 50 times bigger budget.
Yes.
Running budget, annual budget. But most of this is fixed spending.
Yes.
And in my case, it's 80%. Yes. So 10% extra means really 50% of disposable money, 50% more. If this is invested wisely year after year, it's a huge difference. 10% is really doesn't sound like it really is.
No.
Even 2% is really not 2, but much more.
I agree 100% with your observation that this is what I also said in the morning, oil to the big machine you have, but you can also look at the machine, whether you can improve the design of the machine, and this is actually what you have done, and several of you are also doing. So these are very good signs, but I also got the thought that I have always said in my home country that when you have free money, it adds a lot to your freedom, but from money you can also buy money, in the sense that if you create the right situation, you can attract money from outside or grants from outside. And for you who work towards more grants from the EU, I guess it's worthwhile to remember that several of the EU grants are transferable grants. For example, an ERC grant can be transferred with the person. It's a personal grant that moves with the person. So in the case university is attractive for an ERC grant holder in another country, being Polish or non-Polish, that person can bring the grant to Poland, to your institution. So how do you use the fresh resources in such a strategic way, so in order to maximize your opportunity, not only to attract grants, but also to attract granted people?
Okay. For me, the more important is networking. So they decide to create a leading research group to be more active on the market for the networking. So, yes. For example, we use the money from the NAVA, another institution, to be more visible in the international market. So we're from, we received the offer from the consortia, the European consortia, and received 3 million euro per year from the H2020. So it's a really success. But they make only the people who have the contacts, have the contacts from the personal contacts for the postdocs, and we decide go this way in the future. But there are really we applied for the IRC project, but without the success in this sector, but it's before us. But I think this is the way to find the individual researchers. They have the chance to give them support and an environment for him. But the second way is to be more in the specific areas. So we're from on the level of the city. So we started with the joint PhD school, but I think that it will be next step to join the research group, but we have some area, but it is, for me, networking. I think that is an answer for our strategy in the future.
Before I give it to you, I would say that one of the observations is that many of you mentioned what we call the human capital dimension. You are investing in the next generation and younger people and creating opportunities for those. And one of the observations that the international panel made when we examined the proposals from all of these universities was that in some cases, for example, in the case of the Technical University of Wrocław, there was a focus on infrastructure. And what we said is, yes, infrastructure is important. But first of all, you have a lot of infrastructure in Poland. But second, infrastructure is something that is readily shared across borders. It's much more critical that you have the right people, because if you have the right people with the right networks, infrastructure all over Europe is open. Yeah. I mean, I remember in my university, when I was a rector, we have a big piece of equipment for material science, and more than 90% of the time used in that equipment was from people from other countries, mostly other Europeans. So I guess that in the strategic development, it's fair what the panel recommended to you all was to get your human capital focus right, increase the speed of generational change, train more people in your doctoral schools, get your doctoral schools up and running in Wrocław, for example. There's no reason why you can't share the doctoral schools, and you already do. So,
when you moved to human capital, you almost said what I asked you to let me say. So I'm glad. So this 2 or 10%, I said it's large compared to the annual budget, but it's even more if it's spent intelligently for nonlinear effects. Yeah. Actually, the resources that we have as a university, which some companies don't have, is that we allocate or distribute not only money, but also freedom, time, prestige, a sense of purpose, sense of doing something important, even longer in time, more bigger than our life. Belonging to university is something very big. And sense of agency and creating world around you, both in a technological sense, but also to arrange the department around yourself, for example. And if using a little bit of money, one reallocates in an intelligent way those other resources, you can awake certain things that were sleeping so far and put in motion a lot of energy. And we, probably all of us, being deans or rectors of previous terms, were doing different moves like that. I was surprised to see how huge nonlinear effect came from freeing some teaching load, how big of a return one can get from this by doing all those nonlinear effects. When people who have less teaching, they produce more research, so they put pressure on other people, then the news spreads, and people from university like yours come to work in my department because they hear that there is more freedom, and then there is more money from grants, and then there is a lot of teaching that's left over, so other people can do teaching and feel better because they don't do research, so then take more teaching. Everybody is more happy, and it just comes from an initial little bit of money invested into freeing. So this 2% can be enough to start a huge change.
Yes, the point is to use it as the catalyst.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, thank you for the voice. Sometimes the free resources can be the first step for the creation of grants. For example, from my experience, very important are something like brokers meeting in the Brussels, where the consortia are creating. In many cases, the young investigators don't have the money in their own departments for the travels for the Brussels. Yes, you know how it is. Head of the department don't want to get the resources for the research for the travel, and the free money from the 2% or even more than less than 1% are enough to financing the travel for the consortia meeting, for the brokers meeting, and it can be the first step for the young people for their own project, for their own European project. Yes, in most cases, I think the consortia are creating in the Brussels in the brokers meeting.
Jaroslav mentioned the networking as very important, and I think the internationalization in some sense is actually just another word for networking across borders. So maybe we could focus a little bit on how you are looking at networking within Poland. It could be within cities, but also across Poland and outside. And the medical university is very engaged in developing the new, younger human capital. And how do you ensure that these young coming scientists, they are becoming well networked?
The name of our panel, the present panel, is the Research University is a driver of change. And it is exactly a driver of change also with networking people. Because what we observe, maybe this is only within medical universities in Poland, but what we observed when the Constitution of Science was adopted and was is present in our university in Poland. At different medical universities in Poland, we exactly stopped talking, and we stopped big cooperation, which was before. Probably because all of us, we had different ideas how to change our university, what to do with disciplines, faculties, and so on. But the Constitution of Science and also the Research University program, it opened a market, an internal market in our city, in Poznań. There are 6 universities in our city. Adam Mickiewicz University, which is Research University, but also Life Science, the University of Technology, Medical University, University of Economics, and all of us, we started to talk, and we started, for example, to network people inside the city, but also we started to perform common and all together of us a politics with EU. When we, for example, want to invite some maybe researchers, even young researchers, we invite them exactly to the Poznań University, not to the particular university in our city, but he can, for example, flow from one to another. When we go as rectors or vice rectors abroad to Brussels, we also go together because we have different ideas, and when 5 or 6 universities ask for meeting with some officials in Brussels, this is much, much easier if we go alone. So in this case, what we can observe just in our region, in Poznań, the networking is the most efficient, thanks maybe to Constitution of Science, within our city.
So if you look at the Poznań and the region around Poznań, how do you see the future if you are dreaming? For what would be, would you integrate further, or if so, what's the obstacle?
Yeah, I have a dream, and the dream is the federation, because exactly 2 years ago we celebrated 100th anniversary of our Poznań University, which was before the war, and after that it was divided into some small universities. Small university, it means is weak rector, and weak rector is good for authorities. Right now, we want to get together as the federation, and I think in case of our city and our region, it's good time, and we have good people, good leaders who won't make such a federation.
Great. Following on to that, I have a question for you, because one of the universities that are not here, the Pedagogical University of Krakow, write in their response to the questions prior to the conference that they are looking into some kind of joint effort with your university, I think it was. What?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, but
of course, everything is
but then
possible.
it's unfair to talk about them when they're not here. So, but are you looking into working with universities outside of Katowice?
Yes, we were very lucky in the last competition of European universities. We managed to enter the European Universities
European
Initiative.
yeah.
Yes, so we are in the second round. Yeah.
Yes.
But of course, it's not the only way we would like to pursue our future. We are also looking for different alliances with other universities and let's say, broader collaboration with universities outside of Poland, because I do believe that the international visibility is the key idea of this whole thing. And of course, also the structure of the university, I mean the proportion between different disciplines is also very crucial. Because if you have more humanities, more social sciences, which everywhere have the same problem, yeah? They are not that much visible outside. So either we have to think how to make them more powerful, more visible, or we have to do some kind of a deal with other universities to make them more stronger, yeah? But also and particularly in this international sense. But I would like also to add something which is, I think, quite particular for our university, because on the top of that, maybe it's not well understood, because we are speaking about human resources, we are telling that people should agree, you should discuss with people, but on the top of that there is a psychology. And this is a very important issue. I think it's not very well addressed in Poland in general, because we are thinking about employees as regular people who are working, they are getting their money, but those relations between people are extremely important. And this is the reason why we have started our human resources department, which is actually quite excellent and helped us a lot in this initiative. Thank you.
I think we have time for one more question, and then we should go for opening up the floor for people attending. Yes.
Okay, so I want to congratulate those 10 universities that won, and most of all, I'd like to thank for this competition, for the people who constructed this. I know that you know better than us that it's not a discovery how it was thought, but a number of elements make it great. So there is a sharp division between top 10 and the rest. It's great. It makes it a goal. There were no solid favorites. Even though initially people might expect that everything's rigged, it was not. There were surprising winners and there were surprising losers, which make it very fair and very, how to say it, people trust those results. The reward is very sizable. We addressed it today, that 10% might not sound like much, but it's a huge reward.
Yes.
It's over a nice period of time, not 20 years, not 2 years. And there is a chance to do again in the future, so there is incentive to trust that everybody will have another go. I think from what I see at my university and from what I see from discussions with my friends, rectors from other universities, that it has already accelerated improvement of our universities dramatically. We are far from optimum. There is plenty of easy fixes at our university that could be awoken and put to work, but this competition accelerated this process dramatically, both from the benefit of those who won and for the benefit of a university like mine. So I thank you.
Thank you. So let's ask the audience, do any one of you like to ask a question or proposal for the panel? Actually, against the light, I see our astronomer.
Okay. Actually, can I just first ask one question to Professor Voice?
Okay.
Because you once said that the change of more women coming into force has been dramatic. What did you mean by that? How dramatic is that?
I just give a symbolic example. We have a dean of the Faculty of Medical Engineering who is a woman. And we have a dean of construction, how is it called in English? Building bridges and buildings,
Yes.
which is a woman. It has never happened in the history of my university. We have more examples like that.
Okay, so dramatic indeed. I like that. We hope for some dramatic questions.
Concerning networking, I wanted to ask you, do you see a potential for tightening collaboration with institutes of the Polish Academy of Sciences, and how to use this potential in this further growth?
Okay. For me, it's the modeling cooperation, so like modeling in Germany. So the universities have give the degrees, but the PhD students stay in the research universities, research institutes. So, but I have the experience in this area. But I think the collaboration with the academic science is an important part of our work. So we have the PhD school, but they have the PhD position in the project. Yes. But the problem is that the Polish academic studies have the grant also the PhD degree. So it's a problem in the law. So we are really we don't have the chance for the collaboration, but we have the same. Yes. It's a problem.
I think it's probably, I don't know if Professor Bicycle is with us virtually, but she was a rector of University of Göttingen, and I know that some of the Max Planck institutes in the area of Göttingen and Göttingen University has a quite close cooperation. Yes. And the international panel, not only this one, but also the one that has reviewed Poland's research system a couple of years ago, recommended to the government that you are all looking into the opportunities of working closer together, not only with the institutes of the academy, but also with the institute of the what is it called? The Technology Institutes of Poland. Yes, yeah. There's a network of about 100 institutes, and some of them are very good. So why not share human and physical resources in a much more efficient way than what was done in the past? Of course, some of us, like Seibold and I, we come from countries where academies don't run this extensive network of research units, so we don't have the problem, so to speak. In Poland, it is kind of a problem because your research system is compartmentalized, not only within universities or within cities, but also in the country as such. So there's a lot of efficiency gains to be made. So thank you to you for asking the question. I think you should remember it, of course, when you look at how to make your network stronger.
Yeah, but it is the normal. If the people from the research institution have the position in the university,
yes,
and have the chance to have the PhD student, but the school in the university, but we are the education institution,
yes,
but in, the Institute of Academic Science are oriented for the research, not for the education. So it's a problem. There's a problem with study, PhD studies, now the same with the schools. Yeah. So if I have the school with the universities, it exists very well. So, but I am in the research council of the Institute of the Geophysical Polish Academy of Science, so they have the schools, but this is the joint school with the university, so it's working okay. But if on their own, no.
But I suppose that one of the roles of the leaders in a system which is compartmentalized is actually to lower the barriers for cooperation between the different compartments. And the fewer compartments you have, the less energy you need to use on lowering all these barriers for collaboration. So I will still recommend you to try to, if not merge, at least to remove the barriers, share joint appointments, share equipment and things like that.
Yes.
If I can show you one example of cooperation between the University of Lodz and Polish Academy of Science during the pandemic. Because when the pandemic was started, we created, together with the Medical University of Lodz, immediately we created a diagnostic laboratory, which now have been established on Academic Center of Virusology. So there was a very important, our cooperation, which was before pandemic, because we well know our possibilities, and we use human resources for the Polish Academy of Science, some part of equipment, resources from the university, and we created very shortly the diagnostic laboratory and next the center, which will develop new technologies for the diagnostic and all research related to microbiology.
And Professor Holm-Nielsen also mentioned Professor Bicycle, so it's really great to tell that the next panel will actually be with her as well. So maybe she can also
Then we can
raise
ask
that point
Yes.
of efficiency gains. And let's see if we have some question gains. If some people would like to ask any questions from the audience in the lecture hall. If not, then I'd like to emphasize that you're so welcome to ask your questions online, and they're just as important. So please make sure just to ask them in English. And to do that, just use the platform that, the meeting platform that allows you to watch us right now. And so we will then ask those questions. But so far, we might have more time for our moderator to continue the discussion. By which I mean you.
I have a question. I have the one question, but for me the problem with the postdocs. So I mean about the internal postdoc. Everyone experienced this area, but it's not easy to do. But if you have the project, it's established by the project. So, but I'm looking for the program that will be dedicated for the funds and money that you have from the university to establish in the structure of the university postdoc position. But it's not stable, it's a temporary, but each one have the contract for the longer time, no, but this is a problem from my point of view. So I decide to open the position for a long time and partly in the research. So it's not accepted now by the community, but we must teach, but they have the special condition. What do you think about them? But for me, it is important, I know, but we need the postdocs, internal postdocs in the university. But the problem is really...
To say something, I need to read the first name. Michał. Okay, I forgot. May I say something? I'm polite.
Yeah.
May I say something to that question?
Yes.
There are two things to the postdoc. One is that the postdoc doesn't teach, so they have more time to do research at precisely this very important moment in a career where typically people graduate with a PhD. They have still very high expectation about their own career.
Yes.
They do certain things no longer for the first time. Like if you're a PhD student, you have your first lecture talk. You have your first important paper. Even if you don't have any money, you're carried by enthusiasm and by doing things for the first time in your life. When you finish your PhD, in the Polish situation, you get a lot of teaching. Your salary usually drops.
Yeah.
You cannot get grants that are reserved, some money that is reserved for PhDs. And you no longer are carried by this enthusiasm, and you're just one of many. So freeing teaching, by itself is a huge thing that allows people to continue towards habilitation and future academic career. But I think even a more important thing that maybe most of us have experienced is that when you are put in a new place, not just free of teaching, you have to achieve. You have to show that you're not the dumbest person in the group. Even if you were considered a genius back home, naturally, if you're put in a new environment, you try to overachieve. And it's kind of exploitation of people for their own benefit, for the benefit of their own CV. So this exchange of people between Polish universities, I think has should have a net positive effect, similar to many of our careers that were accelerated by some training abroad. I think those two effects are both important about postdocs.
But Poland is a big country, and you have many large cities. And as we know, several of the cities has a lot of attraction and several universities. So it should be possible to create like an internal mobility that is stronger. I know there would always be a tendency for mobility to be towards the strongest centers, whether it be in Krakow or Warsaw, or in technology, Warsaw, or whatever.
I needed to look at Michał's first name because I just escaped me, I'm sorry. Because for example, it happened on a couple of occasions between our universities that people would move for some random reason. Somebody fell in love, and they moved from one city to another. And they immediately start producing better research just because they changed the place, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but there's no problem for the mobility on the national and international level. The problem is that if you use the external money, you don't have the problem to create this position. But if you use the internal money, the university, you have the problem, but community don't accept them. But it is the main problem from my point of view.
So this is the problem of psychology. Yeah?
Yeah.
So you have to do it very wisely. I mean, if you are putting people to some places, you have to be sure that they are there accepted. Otherwise, they are kamikaze. Yeah? They will crash
So if you
sooner or later.
mention psychology, another psychological thing is the pressure from the fixed amount of time. Right? If you put somewhere for 2 years, you will do better than if you put undetermined period.
Yes, but you have to also think how the environment will interact with this person.
Yeah.
And because let's say in social sciences or in humanities you can work mostly alone, but in chemistry, physics you are working in teams. So if the team is not accepting this person, he will fail.
True.
I have one more question for you, if we can use some of the last 10 minutes for that. You said you created, in a way, or strengthened the collaboration with an institute of the academy because of the pandemic. But now I would like to ask you all, of course the pandemic in the short term caused you to change mode of action within your own university. What do you think would be the longer term consequences of these changes, if any? It's difficult because no one knows, no one has really studied it. We cannot study it yet, but I guess we all have the feeling that we are not just returning to business as usual. Something happened. We all learned to use video systems more than we did in the past. Would some of your universities become more international in the sense that you have more virtual programs, so you can have students from all over the world in the classroom? Or how do you look at it? What's coming as a follow-on to the pandemic?
If I can. I think that first time we discovered the potential of the teleconference and electronic communication systems. For example, when we started the Council of the Faculty by Microsoft Teams platform, nobody wants to use it. There was many comments that this will be worse than normal. But now everybody wants to have only online meetings, and similar with the voting, only online voting. So many of people discovered the potential, and now they want to implement this even after the pandemic, even for administrative issues, some consultations with I don't know, people from administration. You don't need to go for the dean bureau or rector bureau. You can link directly by the Teams or other platform, and you have very quick consultation and very quick. You can have check documents. Similar with the electronic signature, the implementation of the systems with the electronic signature at the university. I think in many university now will be very often used in the future. So I think that the pandemic show us the potential of electronic communication and electronic platforms for the administrative data. Thank you.
I see the three areas. First, the organization. We have the electronic exchange of the documents, so we developed in last time the system very well. So we use the money for it, but we see the positive aspect. In the research is the break, but we don't have the mobility now. We start but slowly, so it is only break I don't see, but we see that we more applied for the project and have more public papers, but better than before. The problem is with the education, that will be closed for us on the national level, or we will be open for the international market in the education. I think that here the chance from the pandemic, not in the near future, but generally in the future, to change our visibility on the education market. So we have the chance to be more visible on the European market. But it's only
immediately. Of course, you do electronic communication with your students. You have been doing that during the crisis. In Polish.
Yeah.
Would you now take the next step and start to do more what you do in English in order to attract more of my students or Cyborg students or Ulrike's students or...
No, but I decided to create the sources center where we offer the lectures in the English, but it will really our offer from the community, from the education. So we are going this way. So we have the project and some selected lectures, selected by the community, by the council, are distributed by the. So it is also a joint project with the technical university and others. So I think that is a chance to be more visible, but. Is the effect of the pandemic, but I think the future.
We take over. Yeah. You first.
Okay, the medical universities, we have no choice because we can teach students using internet during the maybe 2 first years when we have basic sciences, but starting from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and the last year, we need students in clinics. And what pandemic changed in our university, we were not able at one moment to ask 40 students from different faculties, Polish, English-speaking students at one moment to one clinic because it was too crowded. So we have to divide into much, much smaller groups, 5, 6, 7 students who at one moment enter the clinic. So we have to change the time of our practical clinic. They do not finish at this moment at 1 p.m., but at 6 or 7 p.m. sometimes. So we have to ask also our teachers to stay longer at work. But at this moment, I think that the level of teaching is better because the clinics are not so crowded. And teachers, they have maybe not 20 students at one moment, but 5, 6, like it should be. And they have more time and they can give their knowledge more efficiently.
Great.
So I think that the real interactive lecture with a true contact with a professor is irreplaceable. And it's actually a great intellectual adventure to have for a student to have a chance to ask questions, maybe chat during the break between the lectures. This is things I remember from when I was a student. This is one of the great things university offers to its students, contact with bright people, at least ideally. Yes. Now, what is the alternative to such a lecture? It used to be in Poland pretty much nothing. So if you didn't go to the lecture, there were not even books. Then there were books, maybe Xerox brought from the West. Then there were lectures like MIT OpenCourseWare, that you can listen to a lecture on the same subject, not interactively, but just listen, given by maybe even a famous scientist. And now, because everybody will have to prepare lectures for COVID, we will be able probably to ask people from other university, Polish or not Polish, to give us, let's say, 10 first lectures by Zoom, and then visit our university for the last 2 weeks to do grading, maybe to talk to the students for the last 2 weeks. And okay, so this is now the 0 level. This is what the real lecture has to beat. The lecture, even the very bad lecture, was better than nothing. Now you have to beat this, what I just said. So I hope, this is my optimistic hope, that because of development of this technology like Zoom, because of use of this technology, and because our professors will have their lectures prepared for presentation on Zoom, it will put pressure on real lecturers to be better, because they have to compete with that.
Yes. I think that my personal opinion about integrating electronic means in the teaching and research process is precisely integrating the new tools. It's not to move completely overboard. So I was never a big supporter of MOOCs. I thought this was just a business model developed somewhere in the United States. But of course we should take on technology, and if I look at the 20 universities here, you took up the challenge you got from the EDIP, and took it as an opportunity to accelerate your change, as a catalyst for change. Now with the pandemic, you got another catalyst for change. We have all been forced into living, besides our biological life, an intense electronic life. Personally, I prefer my biological life to the electronic life, but I understand I have to integrate the two, and I think that it's rewarding for me to listen to all your very positive signals. You are taking on the challenges, and you are changing universities, and I think for the government that has actually created the excellence program, it must be also satisfying to see that it has worked as a catalyst for all of the 20 universities. I think it's fair to conclude that at this moment already. It's the first very, very good sign of what is happening to Poland's universities. So congratulations to all of you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. It sounds very optimistic. And on behalf of our moderator, I'd like to thank our panelists, Professor Michał Daszykowski, Professor Jarosław Bosse, Professor Arkadiusz Wójs, Professor Michał Bijak, and Professor Michał Nowicki. A big round of applause for all of them. And Professor Loritz Holm Nielsen, I would like to say great hosting from you, and we so much appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.